to another edition of Fixed Ops Mastermind. Today I am joined by Yuriy Demidko, who is the Chief Information Officer from Fox Motors. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So you've built your career at the intersection of technology and automotive. What drew you into this space, and how has your perspective on dealership data evolved as time has gone on?
That's an interesting question. So I think what drew me into the space was that I saw how, like 15 years ago, especially, how little data was being utilized in the auto industry, especially at the dealer level. So a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of emails, but nothing really being leveraged from a business intelligence standpoint to like a enterprise grade extent. So I thought it was pretty interesting to like approach that. And that's kind of what got into it. And like you said, I've been like in tech, then I've been in auto, then tech, then auto. But I think all those lessons from tech just translate into auto so well. Really, if you think about it, there was a time where like now we have big tech.
Mm-hmm.
Auto was technically like the first big tech, if you think
Sure.
about it,
Yeah, for sure.
right? Like it used to be the tech, and now there is a big tech industry. So yeah.
I remember back when I got into the field, cars were made with maybe 8 or 9 computers, maybe 10, and now there's hundreds that are talking to each other, and so you're right. I mean, it's really evolved that way, and it's funny, on the data side, a lot of dealers are saying that they're data rich, but they're insight poor. Why do you think the industry really struggled to unlock the full value of data, and have they even come to fruition of actually fully unlocking it?
I think it depends who you talk to, obviously. That being said, I think why most dealers think that is we are 100% data rich. We have an astronomical amount of data. We have our DMS data, CRM data, your service logs, all that stuff is there. We have all of if you're talking about automotive industry as a whole, not just dealers,
Yes.
we have all of the smart car data. All this data is just coming in. I mean, there is sensor data upon sensor data. If you think about it, any tech, when you speak to techs a lot, they tend to be like, well, what do I really know about computers? And I'm like, dude, when you take this thing apart, you know a lot about computers. You just don't you just don't tend to think that you know about, but you obviously know a lot, because what are you plugging into that car right there? I don't know what it is, and I worked in tech, but you obviously do, and that looks like a mini computer to me, which then puts it onto another computer. But the reason I think the challenge dealers have always had, especially when it comes to data, is really leveraging it. That's again kind of goes to your first question. What drew me in was exactly that. There is just this plethora of data, but it remains unharnessed. Now, I think over the years that's become less and less prevalent,
Mm-hmm.
but it is quite a thing today. If we look at like other retail industries, like let's say your clothing locations or food, I mean, they use every piece of data humanly available, like, hey, what clothes are being taken off those shelves. We have grocery stores that, like, Kroger for like over a decade now has been like measuring body heat to see who's in the store and where people are.
Wow.
So like to this whole other level, and this is just a grocery chain. I think the biggest impediment, well, there's two huge impediments. One is talent. I think specifically at the dealer level, dealers have always been a bit averse to like, why don't we bring some tech talent into like a big auto group?
Sure.
That's starting to change nowadays. I do see more and more tech professionals, not just on the vendor side, but also on the dealer side, where you look at your auto nations. I mean, Fox Motors has, brought a person like me, and you start seeing major groups knowing that, like, hey, if you don't bring some tech talent over, you will be fundamentally behind.
Sure.
And over the past, I say 10, 15 years, you really had a significant edge to your competition if you brought some tech talent in-house.
Right.
I'd say the other big impediment is data cleanliness or data governance. Frankly, data cleanliness and governance. We have a lot of data, but it's not clean. It's not deduped. it's not ran against any kind of centralized databases to make sure everything is correct about that data. And I think that really hampers dealers in advertising, whether it's variable advertising or fixed operations advertising. It's extremely important to know on any side of the business, like how much is Kyle spending with our group.
Sure.
So that's why I think now in today's, like nowadays, people are really big on the CDPs. So like your customer data platform profile, whatever you want to call it, that's become more prevalent because I think for as long as I can remember, it was hard to harness data because it was just a bunch of dupes and you could never really plug a BI tool on top of it. And
Right.
I think until now, where, obviously generative AI with large language models and all that, that's the big thing now. Up until this started, the big thing was business intelligence tools. Like
Sure.
that was like the big thing. And you will bring like this beautiful, you'll get the vendor, they'll come in and they'll bring you the most beautiful business intelligence tool. It has all the cool graphs. They do little bounces when they load. It's just perfectly styled. You look at it, you bring it to any operator, and they're like, every number on the screen is wrong, but it looks really pretty. And I and I think I think that's now what's really funny is the same issue of data hygiene, data governance translated into AI. Because now, instead of your pretty dashboard, now you're like, listen, I have the greatest tool ever. All we do is we'll integrate your DMS into it, your CRM, and this thing will be able to do all of these amazing things. All right, cool. You plug it in, you type in the first question, it gives you just an astronomically wrong answer. And you're like, this AI is broken. This is a piece of crap. No, it's using crap data. And
Right.
that's like the foundation. So I think just I think that's why dealers have not why dealers generally say that we're data rich, but we really under leverage the data. It's because the level of talent and determination that you have to give to get that data to a state where it's actually actionable and execute and can be executed upon just requires a whole lot of effort and dedication.
Quick break in the action. Let's talk parts. Yeah, that corner of the dealership most people don't look at until there's a fire. Parts Edge helps you clean up that mess. Smarter inventory, better margins, and no more guessing games. It's like giving your parts manager a crystal ball, except this one actually works. Spiffy. You can manage your mobile appointments, optimize your service routes, track inventory, and process payments. All with Spiffy, and you can learn more at spiffy.com. You ever wish you could inspect every car like a tech with X-ray vision? UVI is like an MRI for your car. UVI doesn't miss a thing. Scans the tires, the underbody, body panels, and wheels for scuffs in seconds, giving your team instant, actionable intel without slowing down the lane. That's not the future. That's UVI, and it's live in stores today.
Would you say that for a dealership that is looking to break into quote unquote AI, I get the question quite a bit because I've done a lot of demos. I've
Mhm.
really invested myself into it, and I'll have dealers call and say, "Hey, can you give me a suggestion? What tool should I bring?" And to me, that's a loaded question because what are you trying to accomplish? What I'm learning now, and I made the mistake when I first got into it, is I think from a dealer level or a dealer group level, the most important
Mhm.
thing for us to do is figure out how to control our data and not have it be controlled by a vendor or have it unclean like you're talking about and wipe out the duplicates or the people that have passed away and they're still in there and we're still spending money to advertise to them.
Wait, Kyle, are you saying when somebody dies, you don't want to litter their grave with Ford F-150 advertisements? Is
No,
that what
I mean, I prefer not
you
to.
you just
I'd like to honor.
you just went against the entire advertising policy for car dealers. What's wrong with
You're
you?
kind of making my point.
We'll follow you to the grave,
Yeah.
okay?
So would you say from your standpoint, um, data has to be the first thing that you're going after?
I think so. You made a really interesting statement there. You said dealers ask me all the time, what AI tool should I go with? The problem with everything is that's the wrong question. just to start like that.
Sure.
That is a fundamentally wrong question. What AI tool should I go with? So first of all, number one, yes, data is extremely important. If you do not have a cleaned up data set, again, any AI tool you plug into this will be essentially feeding you garbage from the garbage that you put it on top of.
Set up to fail.
The reason I say, what AI tool should I use? Why that's the wrong question is because, like you said, that's a very loaded question. You're literally asking, what AI tool should I use? I mean, well, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Are you like, so and honestly, even if you have something more direct, like, okay, what are we trying to solve for? And therefore we're going to find you a tool. Like that would be like a pretty normal. I think that's incorrect as well, because when you say, what do you try to solve? People usually come up with like these monolithic ideas of what they want to solve.
Sure.
So for example, you could say something like, well, what I'm trying to do is revolutionize how my store engages with the customers. And let's say it's in fixed operations. I want to revolutionize how we engage with our customers in our service department. Well, that is like, okay, well, what do you mean revolutionize? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the mistake gets made, is people try to create these like utopian monolithic ideas, then they stick some kind of AI tool on it, and then it epic fails hard. And we see it more and more, and there's a million AI tools out there, most of which are reskins of like ChatGPT or something. Like we just, hooked into the OpenAI API, and put a little bit of RAG, which is like retrieval augmented generation, put a little bit on top of that, and boom, there we go. I got an app, and that's it. That was the whole point. So just a reskin of OpenAI. What I think people should be asking themselves first, and then you, is, what are my problems? What am I trying to solve? And I'm talking about micro problems, like these little gaps in your process.
Right.
Attack the simple ones, and then see, can that be handled in an automated fashion with AI? So a great example would be, when a customer pulls up, like, I want they'll always to be engaged in some fashion. Great. Why don't we get a small AI service to welcome the customers via text and ask them if they have any questions or concerns about their repair, and we load what their RO is going to be based on what they're coming in, based on their appointment, and then answer any questions they may have without having to get an advisor involved who has a bunch of people standing in front of them. Like, do you see, like, that's a much simpler thing to solve than revolutionizing the entire customer service experience. So, I think you need to figure out what your issues are, what your current process is, and how much of that process do you believe needs to be changed, or lay out a process for somebody like you said, hey, what should I do? And then, okay, let's work. Here's the different steps of my process. What tool do you want to fit into this? Now, that being said, the other thing, when looking at tools, especially in today's environment, it's really important to make sure that the tool is not pigeonholed to one provider. Why do I say this? In the world of AI today, I'm not saying you can't use OpenAI. You can. And you can use Anthropic, or you can use Google with Gemini, whatever you can leverage. And you should. But the thing is, these models, I don't know if you've noticed, there is a new version of this freaking model every 2 months.
Yeah.
So if you go with a vendor that says, we have exclusively close partnership with, let's say, OpenAI, and we use GPT, I know 4.5 is out, GPT-5 is out now, but let's say we use 4.1. Well, what if tomorrow Anthropic comes out with something that's even better than 5 is now? And does that company has the foresight and strategy to pivot should this happen? Sure. And I think that's one of the fundamental questions, if you're looking at any AI vendor, is are they looking outside of just one basket of eggs, and that kind of thing. The last thing I'll say about this, I know I've answered very robust answer here. I apologize. The last thing I'd say is I like to. This is like the free consulting I like to give when people ask me about AI and how to screen AI vendors. This is very complicated, so if you want to write your recordings, you need to write this down, but this is really important.
It's good for everybody listening.
This is for everybody listening. This is like this. If you get nothing else from this, take this. If somebody comes up to you and they're trying to sell you an AI tool, and you look them up online, and their title is AI expert, don't get that tool. And that's it. Very simple. Because AI expert, when I hear that, I'm like, well, are you a data scientist? Like you build models? Like what do you do?
Right.
Because like I'm an engineer by trade, but I still would not consider myself I can tell you with general certainty of how to apply AI in certain fashions, but I sure as heck did not design the models. So that's my one little tidbit of free consulting, right? And very complicated, very complicated.
I agree 100%. I've been in the fixed ops side of our business and constantly trying to learn in our business for 20 years now. I would never in my life say that I'm an expert in any part of what I do. So I agree with you 100%. If somebody's saying that they are an expert, that means that you've pretty much stopped learning and that you've learned what there is to learn. So I think what's going to come at me is something that's going to let me down, really. So one thing that I've noticed quite a bit is that there's a lot of dealerships that are, they're hesitant to adopt new tech until they see it working somewhere else, or they want to see it perform prior to bringing it in. What is your message to the leaders that are holding back and not taking steps forward while they're waiting for everybody else to see it first?
I have a two-prong answer to that.
Okay.
It seems like every single question you've asked, I had a two-prong answer to.
Which is great.
First of all, first prong, I would say we are in an industry that generally moves a bit slower than other industries.
Yes.
So if you're worried about if something is working or not working, so whether it's AI or whether it's CDP or whatever else, what's really interesting is why don't you just look at another industry, because they've probably already done it and failed 1,000 times with it, and see if the idea you have actually is one of the ones that didn't fail. That's to be honest, if there is hesitation, don't think inside your own box or your own spectrum. Go and look at retail. Go and look at the food industry. Are they doing something like that? Because I'm telling you, like, there is a lot of look at the insurance. You want to know about AI? Look at the insurance industry. Okay, insurance industry really, like, they go all in with machine learning, large language models, anything. Like, they got that stuff dialed in. That being said, what I would say from like a dealer world, or frankly any type of business, it doesn't matter whether it's dealer world or anything else. To those who are currently afraid, like you said, to kind of dip their toe in to get into this, here's what I will say. And I use this a lot, so if you hear this somewhere else, try not to laugh. In the early 2000s, on Bloomberg, I think it was Alan Greenspan or somebody else. I think it was Alan Greenspan. He made a statement. He said, in the next 5 to 10 years, because of technological innovation today, like this is in the early 2000s, many of the Fortune 500 companies that are currently on the list will either not exist or they won't be Fortune 500 companies. Okay? In today's world, and that was in the early 2000s with the dot-com boom, internet's getting bigger and bigger, much more used by normal people, so on and so forth. With the rate with which technology is moving today, I would take that statement and reduce it to like 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So things are moving, technology especially is moving so unbelievably fast that if you don't dip your toes in just a little bit and really start testing some stuff, the competitive edge from any crazy new thing has become so razor thin that, let's say you find something cool that, like, hey, this gives me an edge, and you don't use it and you don't use it right away, it will become normalized within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And the early adopters will overtake you, and things will move so unbelievably quickly that your company could already have died, and you won't know for a year that you're dead. Like it just went by. It's
Yeah.
like, dude, like it's like you watch like the what is it, anime or whatever, and it's like the sword slice, and then the thing falls apart, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm a nerd, so just
I'm loving every
bear
minute
with
of
it.
it. Nope, I'm loving every minute.
So
of it.
like I think that competitive edge is so thin
Yeah.
that if you are not trying things now, if you take like the more traditional approach of like, well, I'm going to see what other people are doing, what works and what doesn't, and then kind of adapt it from there, you will be adopting what everybody else already has, meaning you will never be competitive. And a great example of this right now I would give is on the variable side, the big one right now, any big group nowadays, like you look at the Penskes, you look at Fox, a lot of us are using AI to, for example, engage with internet leads. Internet lead comes in, we have an AI start engaging with it. Mm-hmm. Right now, there is still a sliver of a competitive edge left because not everybody does it. Yeah. But I'm telling you, AI interacting with any type of leads that are coming in, whether it's fixed operations, variable operations, that will 100% be normalized very, very soon. These models just need to get a little better, a little more, you can do a little more tuning, and everybody will be doing it, and they'll be speaking perfectly, and they'll be answering questions perfectly. And by the time you're like, oh, yeah, oh, look, Penske's doing it. Oh, look, Fox Motors is doing it. By the time you go and do it, you'll be like, dude, you're like 2 years behind.
Yep.
And frankly, if you're not doing it now, you are probably a bit behind already. So like, you gotta. I know it's scary, but honestly, I think all the successes are people. Look at Elon Musk, for example. This guy has gone broke almost 20 times. Yeah. But it's like if you don't step in the deep end, you will never learn to swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I believe it.
Very robust answer again. I apologize.
No, I love
it. Verbose.
All right, we all know about warranty nightmares. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated. If your warranty process still involves sticky notes, tribal knowledge, and late-night claims rejections, you're leaving money on the table. Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated brings clarity, compliance, and cash flow to your warranty game. They speak fluent OEM, and they've got your back. Hey, I want to encourage you to take a visit over to our partner, Target Automotive, at target.com. That is great until you're drowning in it. Target turns that chaos into clarity with dashboards that actually make sense. Fixed Ops leaders finally get what they need: real-time, drill-down insights without the spreadsheet migraines. It's not just business intelligence. It's Target.
So one thing that all the listeners will know for sure is that you're in my wheelhouse right now. So this is everything that I enjoy about what we're doing right now. Obviously, taking care of guests is the most fun thing, but this gives us the ability to do it in a capacity that's never been that way, and we've seen
scale.
Yeah. So, retail, hospitality, we've been able to hyper personalize, the customer experience. And how close do you think Fixed is on being able to get that kind of personalization? I mean, on the variable side, things seem to happen faster because more money is generally spent on variable than on the fixed side as far as marketing and tools. How close do you think Fixed is, provided that the group that we're talking about is engaged in what we're doing? If that makes sense.
I mean, I don't see why Fixed wouldn't even be closer than variable, to be honest. I mean, Fixed has a lot more cleanliness to it than variable ops does. That's why it's called Fixed. It's because it's much more fixed. Yeah. I think Fixed is definitely very close to being able to do that. I think it kind of goes by. Another term I like to use is one-to-one marketing. Okay, so to marketing to an audience of one, like true subjective marketing. And this can be variable and this can be fixed. Same thing. So imagine you have all your data and imagine you cleaned it up. And now you truly see that Kyle, here is my view of Kyle. I actually know that Kyle, for example, keeps cars for over 10 years. That's just what Kyle does. Mm-hmm. And now, if Kyle keeps cars for over 10 years, I can also tell that Kyle spent a lot of money in my service department. Right. I can only hope, right? And I know that when Kyle comes in, Kyle likes cookies. because this is sitting somewhere in my database, which no human will ever use, right? Who the heck would ever look at some stupid note on a repair order that Kyle likes cookies? And it just so happens they're Razor. Do you like Razor brand cookies, Kyle, or are you a chocolate chip guy?
Oatmeal raisin, actually. Oatmeal raisin.
Okay. Oh, there we go. So oatmeal raisin cookies. All right. So this is Kyle's favorite cookie. Now think about it this way. Any like service advisor or any kind of generic marketing material will just say, hey, Kyle, you're due for your 30,000 mile whatever maintenance, right? And it's like, okay, that's cool. Everybody gets these. What if you got a message? And what I mean to an audience of one, I literally mean an audience of one, meaning we use artificial intelligence to look at all of our service and variable data. And because we want to, you're let's say 60,000 miles in, your vehicle is 5 years old, but it already knows Kyle is not in the market to buy a vehicle right now. Kyle keeps on average vehicles for 10 years, but we got to get him in for service. What if it sent you a message saying, hey, Kyle, you haven't been here in XYZ, personally to you, and then it talks about, hey, here's some of the things that we should do with your car to keep it going. We know that you like to keep your car for a while. Let's make sure we get these things figured out right now. That being said, Kyle, I know nothing about cars, so I'm not going to go into like the technicalities of what we need to do at your 60,000 mile thing. You give me a computer, I'll show you magic. You give me a car, I'll be like, sweet, I think it can go fast. But and then at the end of it also says, and Kyle, don't worry, we'll have some nice warm raisin oatmeal cookies ready for you. You'll be like, holy crap.
Yep.
No, like that will not be different than Kyle come 100%. In for your you're like, wow, these guys remember that John, my service advisor, asked me, and I told him that I like raisin oatmeal cookies.
Right.
And that's what I mean. And I'm telling you, we are with large language models, you can do that because it will actually look at these minutia details, not like the big details that Kyle did all this, and incorporate a true message just to you. And now you ask, how close is Fixed Ops to doing something like this? Well, how many repair orders do we have? Like, can you imagine? I mean, what I just described, honestly, you just need to pull somebody for your 60,000 miles and then run their information through a large language model and send personalized messages to each one.
I love it.
I did not just invent some new way of marketing. This is just, did I just tell you something that you, for a fact, you probably have used ChatGPT before, right? Have you used? Never. Okay.
Every day.
So
never
every day. So what I just described, is that not currently accomplishable if I manually took it out, stuck all your information to ChatGPT, and said, write Kyle a marketing message?
Absolutely. No, it'll do it like that.
So nothing I just said, I did not just create some crazy Yuri. This is some insane futuristic. No, it's possible now. So then that's exactly my point. Those who start thinking in those terms and really going back to the last question, going into it and go into the deep end and try doing it, what kind of edge do you think I would have if I market it to Kyle with the cookies versus somebody who sends you the blast that everybody sends it?
Yeah. No,
that'd be my
game. It's doable right now. So if you don't think that it can't be done right now, you're late, because it's there. And, the easiest example is hotels, right? So the higher end hotels, they already have all that's in there. It's ready to go. But what I would say, though, is, and I learned this from my first AI experience, which was bringing in voice. We were having, the problem that I wanted to fix right away was, let's stop my phone from ringing and stop customers from not being able to get through to us. So I brought voice in. And not realizing, because you're used to the plug and play, right? So they're going to bring in this one size fits all program, and it's just going to fix things. That's
nobody's ever seen that before. That has never happened before.
Yeah, and this is it's insanity. So what I've learned is AI is only going to work if the culture it lands in is the right one. So getting, if you're going to go into AI, how do you get your team? So, from your role, how do you get all your teams ready to go and understand that this has to be managed like an employee but so much faster because it can do so much. And once you train it, it's good. You still have to stay on top of it, but it can work. So I mean, if I want to call 500 service customers right now at, or at 5 o'clock tonight, I want to call 500 customers. We're calling 500 customers right now. Somebody's got to be there to make sure everything went the way it was supposed to, go through those 500 calls or whatever. So I guess my question is, how do you make sure that it's going to land in the right culture, the mindset shifts to it being a helper and not a replacer, and it being effective?
That's a great question. So I think if there was nothing else, I think passion. I think that you need a champion, you need a passionate champion, a champion who really drives it. One of the biggest things I see, even with vendors who, you have like their account executives coming in, and there is no passion. Like they're just kind of going through the motions. They're doing the deck. I think being passionate about what you're doing is the first key thing. When you walk in a room full of, for lack of better terms, full of car guys, okay, everybody always thinks that the average person that works at a dealership they just resist everything. That may be somewhat true, but that's not necessarily true. What they want to see is that you believe into what you're preaching.
Yeah.
So in my position, for example, the first thing I do is I'll do a meeting. I usually like to do them face to face, standing in front of people, and I would love for them to hey, let's poke some holes in this thing, because a lot of times they're also poking holes not because they're naturally resistant. People actually, that's a common misconception. They think that somebody who worked at a car dealership, Bob is just old school. Bob doesn't like anything. And what's interesting is nobody ever listens to what Bob says. And a lot of times, if you actually listen to what somebody like Bob says, excuse me. Sorry. So when you listen to what somebody like Bob says, you start to realize that Bob is not necessarily just resisting what you're saying. Bob may be afraid of, hey, is this here to replace me, like you said?
Yeah.
Or Bob has also, in his 30 years in the automotive industry, has things evolved so much, like so high, so much of it's over his head. And when you actually listen to Bob, it kind of level with him a little bit, which you realize Bob will actually openly tell you, like, yeah, man, you're bringing all this stuff in, and this just scares the crap out of me because I just don't understand it. So it's important to get that. And I think most automotive industry, especially in the dealer side, professionals, you need to be able to explain what this does to improve their life.
Yeah.
Because most of the AI stuff today, it's, there is either you got the fanboys or you have the doomsayers. So there's the fanboys where they say AI will solve all our problems, fix everything, replace everybody, and then you have the doomsayers where Skynet. We got Terminator. The Terminators will be out any minute, so we gotta stop.
Elon's already building.
They're already coming. So all we've got left is 15 minutes to figure this out. What you need to do is empower your teams, and I love to talk about stuff like that, like actually show them, like, hey, this particular thing will take away these pieces that you right now have to do. It won't be yet another thing that you now have to click into and deal with. It will take these pieces off your plate to give you more time to these other pieces that I know you find more important. In fixed operations especially, what I hear, if I talk to advisors in general, they go, my customers prefer a personalized touch. So to your point, you say, I want to do a call blast using AI, dealing with to get hit 500 people today at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
What this is doing, if I was going to pitch this to my team, I would say, who here wants to make 500 cold calls to people? Raise your hand now, and we will get this piece of crap AI thing out of the store right now. Nobody will raise their hand.
No.
And then I would say, if this thing if this thing engages those people and then brings them to you, would you be more enticed to speak to them than if I had you cold call 500 people?
Right.
Who in the room would say, no, I don't want a warmer lead. I want a cold lead. I want the person to pick up and go, oh, crap, heavy sigh. Yeah.
So
and if you put it from that standpoint, you're like, say, I'm not taking away your personalization. What I'm doing is taking away the one piece of this process that you yourself just told me you don't want to do.
Right.
So if we take it away, and now you can bring all your experience, your knowledge of these people when they're actually engaged. And that can be, frankly, applied to many, many different pieces. But I was just kind of answering your piece. Who would be against that?
Nobody.
If I put it that way? And that's, again, explaining things in a way that's not just like, this thing will do it better than you. No, I am filling a void of something that nobody in the room wants to do. So this thing will do it, and then it will take you and put you in a position of what you love to do and what you're really, really good at doing. And that is, once the person is engaged, you then further build rapport. You can do your upselling, and frankly, why don't everybody in the room can make a bit more money?
Yeah.
And there you go.
Done. Easy.
Verbose again. I'm nothing if not verbose. I don't know.
No. I mean, it's honestly what I would say for me, with the amount of effort that I've put into AI, and then the things that I've learned, the mistakes that I've made and will continue to make. Everything that you're saying is what I've either lived or am living as I've been growing through learning this, right? So if you're going to call and pitch me on a product and you're not, and I'm more excited than you in the call, we got a problem. If I'm more engaged in trying to, I'm going to poke holes in it. That's my job. My job is to try and figure out where the weaknesses are to it and where it's not going to perform, where I'm going to have to spend more time. So if I'm telling you as a vendor partner, hey, these are the things that I'm recognizing that are potential roadblocks for me and my team, what can we do to correct them? If you're not willing to start there before you have my money, you're not going to do it when you have it. So I find that, like you had said, you can make all these, paper wraps of an AI. And I've seen plenty of demos where the thing comes live and you're like, oh, this is a pretty demo, and there's nothing behind it. You got to have the meat and potatoes to come along for the ride to make sure that it's going to do what we want it to do. So do you find that the partners that you've engaged with on the AI side, have you tried, is it a different engagement than the typical SAS or SaaS? Are you finding that it's more of a relationship than it's ever been before?
Depends on the partner. Yes, I would say, because the space has become so populated or overflown at this point, they're definitely much more willing to work with you and much more willing to kind of, hey, let's figure. I think the good ones, like the really good ones, what they point out right from the get-go is, hey, this is innovative technology. This is brand new. Failures will happen and mistakes will be made. And you know what? Frankly, I respect that. You mentioned yourself, like, I've tried and failed. And like this, you know the statement, perfection is the enemy of good. And I think in the world of AI, you really need to understand that. And anybody who wants pure perfection is a fool, because if you want full, it'd be nice to get full perfection, but you're never going to get it. It's just never, because to a perfectionist, perfection is very subjective. Yeah. What I think a perfect interaction is very different than what Kyle thinks a perfect interaction is, or what Joe thinks, so on and so forth. So I think what I found with the good AI partners is they put that up front, that they say, hey, some things will not be perfect. But more importantly, they're willing to, again, like you said, see, there's a difference between a vendor and a vendor partner.
Yeah.
So a vendor wants to sell you a bunch of crap and then get commission. Mm-hmm. A vendor partner wants to build a relationship which will expand it further. And a lot of times, like from Fox, like my approach, I deal with that's literally my job. If you said, Yuri, what do you do? My job at Fox is innovation. Like that's literally my whole, like if you wanted one word answer of what I do. And I always tell prospective vendor partners is, hey, let's give you 1, 2, 3 stores, something around that. So 1, 2, or 3, and let's try it. And you give me an enterprise level of support, and we will work through problems at an enterprise level. And a true vendor partner says, this is awesome. This will get me in the door of Fox Motors, and it can benefit both us and Fox Motors from a branding standpoint and from a tooling standpoint. We both have something to gain. And I always make sure they understand that. And you have to, you have to be not afraid to fail once in a while. It's like, those pictures of success, the iceberg of success. Everybody always sees, oh, you're so lucky, like that right here, like this. But then you didn't see all of the failures and trip ups that happen. And again, going to like that whole perfection is the enemy of good. If something can be accomplished 95% of the time correctly, is it worth the 5% that fails? It depends on what we're talking about.
Sure.
But in a lot of times it is.
It is, absolutely.
And that's, I think I have noticed that in the AI space, they are the vendors today are a lot more willing to really build partnerships. But frankly, it's not just AI space. I think in dealer world in general is become so saturated with vendors that many vendors start to notice that, hey, if you continue like the old-fashioned way of doing things where you will just kind of let's make the commission and sign them and leave them.
Yeah.
This is such a regressive way of doing it that all of these new companies that are appearing that are full of tech guys, it will they'll blow you out of the water.
Yeah.
And I think with the proliferation of AI, there is much easier to start a company to do something, that there will be more and more and more companies. Frankly, Sam Altman said it at his one of his recent talks. He said we're soon going to see the world's first like one-person trillionaire company, where it'll be like one person. Now, I don't think we're quite there yet, but it could totally happen. So, which makes you, how honest do you want to be with your offering as a vendor? You better be a partner or you're going to get blown out of the water with all these new companies. So
more conversational than anything, but what I found with the way that I'm going about bringing on a vendor partner now is they may not be the best today, but they have funding behind them. They have a game plan. They listen to what your game plan is, and they want to execute with you. So, without saying name, everybody knows who I'm partnered with on my phone. So if you don't, just look on previous posts. But I went with them, one, because of how good they are currently. But more importantly, when I call the founders or anybody on their staff and I say, hey, guys, we got to try this. Let's do this. I mean, they've already built 5 things for me. And just to try and make us better and get to where we want to get to. Are you finding that you're a little bit more lenient on the partners now that you're bringing in because you now have say in how they're going to help operate?
So, in my opinion, I love scrappy vendors. I love the scrappy ones. The smaller scrappy ones, it's always like the up and comers where you see like there's like there's like a graph, and it goes, like when you're a vendor, a company, you start kind of like this, and then it kind of edges up a little, and then there's like the up, like, and then it takes off, like the snowball effect. Mm-hmm. I like when they're like not quite, like kind of like starting to do that, because they're still willing to work with. And I think finding the smaller scrappy vendors, I'm not saying the smallest, because sometimes the smallest, like, dude, you got vaporware. I mean, you don't even have a solution yet. Right. But finding like the smaller scrappy vendors, the nice thing is, like you said, you can collaborate. And yes, we at Fox do that. Like, we go with maybe not the most enterprise one for this particular thing, maybe one notch below like true enterprise grade. Yeah. But then, like you said, I have a use case that they don't do, but they're like, you know what? Why don't you give us 2 weeks and we'll come back and we'll see if we can get that feature in there for you. And I mean, think about that. The power, first of all, number one, a scrappy vendor, you have negotiating power because if you're a bigger dealer, you have negotiate. So there's a financial advantage to it. You also have the early adopter advantage, and you have the development advantage. And what that can really give you, if you're steering the way it goes, and then the thing takes off, you will be like the face and the defining person of how the tool works.
Amen.
And I mean, dealers, it's really funny that more and more dealers don't want to partner with they want to wait to talk to the monolithic vendor. But then what I've heard in dealer world, so I've been in like the industry, and I every time I say this, I start to feel a little sad, like 13 to 15 years. There used to be a time when people would say this to me and my eyes would roll and I'm like, crap, I'm that guy. but I've been in the industry for like 13 to 15 years. And as long as I remember, dealers would say, I wish these vendors would listen to what I actually need. But then they only partner with like the monolithic, and it's not the fault of a large vendor that they can't pivot as quicker. It's like a smaller vendor is kind of like a speedboat. Yeah. It's easier to turn right. Yeah. A large vendor there is more things going on, more strings attached. They're more like a oil tanker or something, or a cruise ship. It's not as easy to turn. The people on the crew of Titanic knew they're going to hit the iceberg way before they hit it. You just can't do anything about it by that point because it just takes a while to turn. Yeah. So I do think, yes, working with smaller, more scrappy vendors definitely can benefit your company, but there's one catch. Okay. As the customer, you need to be willing to be engaged, and you need to be willing to understand that there is the negative of everything will not be as fully cooked as you would like it to be. And if you don't want to be engaged, I strongly suggest you go with the bigger vendors that can just turnkey it as much as you can for you. So you got to be ready to either you're championing it or you're not.
Right.
And pick accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's the last part there is the key. If you're not going to work with it, then find a solution that you're just going to be okay with it failing and you're not knowing about it. If you're not going to come into the dashboard and you're not going to pay attention to it, man, I'm with you. So what do you think the most underrated tool or platform used day to day is?
That's a difficult one. You mean like a vendor, or just like what when you say tool, what do you mean?
So I guess a tool or an availability that is available to us in the dealership currently, but we don't use it for what it's there for.
Digital retailing. Digital retailing. I think it got really big during the COVID era, and everybody, people can't come in, so we do. I think providing a truly robust digital retailing experience that can then be translated into the showroom is extremely important, and really create like that homogenized, frictionless experience for the customer. And I think it goes into fixed ops as well. I think it needs to turn into fixed. I think it needs to be one journey, not two journeys. Right now, there's I'd say three journeys. There is the digital journey, there's the showroom journey, and then there is the fixed operations journey. I think that's one of the, none of it, I think like a great example of this would be used vehicle acquisition. Yeah. It's one of the biggest hot points right now it's one of the biggest hot points in the industry right now. And what I find hilarious is the fact that this is a true collaborative process between the service department and the sales department, and people still don't execute on it. And then what's really funny is they go, well, that's some kind of pipe dream. Well, I have news for you. I want anybody who thinks that's some kind of pipe dream to look at the Carvana stock and open up the Carvana stock and pull it up over the past 5 years. And the reason it's higher now than it was at its height like 3 years ago, and it completely tanked, and then it's higher now. Yeah. And the reason being is because they homogenized the process. They leveraged vertical integration, and they looked into every step of this process and they found the most frictionless way for the person to exist within that process. And what's really funny about it, so I worked at Apple for a while, and all of these tech people who I worked with, they're scared of car dealerships. Like they're scared of car dealerships, and all of them loved Carvana because you go on there, click, click, click. I never need to see
Yeah.
anybody. Somebody comes, gives me a check, and they're out.
Yeah.
There is no reason why through proper digital retailing and then proper showroom experience and then leading that into the proper fixed operations journey, if all of that becomes homogenized, there is no reason why a dealer could not blow Carvana out of the water. But nobody wants to change anything. Nobody wants to like. Do you understand? Like acquisitions, this is the funniest thing. Nobody wants to do in-service lane acquisitions.
Yeah.
Do you understand how funny that is? So I show up with a car, right? You need used cars, so now you have a used car you can get. But that's not it. I'm at the dealership. How am I going to leave? So now you have the opportunity to get a car and sell me a car. Everybody is benefiting from this. And I'm happy. I will come back to service to then service the car because I'll be like, instead of these guys who try to take $5,000 out of me for freaking transmission that was broken, I got a new car. They shook my hand and I left. Where do you think I will do my first oil change and my first 10, 15, 20, 25,000? Like this benefits everybody and but everybody is too concerned about, no, we need to get $500 on my, $500 front end gross. And that's it. That's it. I don't have time to go talk to the service drive. And what's really funny, and that's, going back to data, in fixed operations, you have all the data in the world. You know how old the car is.
Yeah.
You know how many miles there are there. You know exactly the car that's coming in. Dude, this is like you got a recipe, not only for acquisition and for a sale, but also a recipe for securing can you imagine a happy customer coming into service? Because service it's like IT. It's the most thankless profession on earth. I'm here because it's your fault. Because of this, I'm not here because, yes, can you please replace my tire or something? That's what I wanted. No, like, you already messed this up for me. Can you imagine smiling? And what's really funny, everybody makes more money and the customer is happy if you do this correctly.
Yeah.
That's why I said, like, I would say less, it's not just digital retailing. It's like the digital retailing is just, I think, the glue that combines all of this together. And I feel like we really fall short on that. But just the overall experience, it's such an easy fix, and nobody wants to do it.
No.
That's my pitch for frictionless customer experience.
I love it. I love every bit of it. We offer an oil change and tire rotation package to, buy two, use one today, use the next one, within a year. Mm-hmm. Well, I've said to my team, well, this isn't good enough. Give it to all their friends and family. Tell them that that's what we offer. Any make and model other than diesel, bring them in. And then our sales folks have the opportunity to come and get off brands. We gain the customer, and now we have a legacy customer that has, that tree just continues to get bigger and bigger. But you have a legacy. So yeah, $500 today for front end gross, but what does that mean for the lifetime of that customer? Not even talking about if they just bring one other customer that gets the same experience, a referral back to us. I mean, it's
exponential returns.
No brainer.
Exponential returns.
You're 100%. You're 100%. I do have a question that maybe or maybe not. Bringing the Carvana thing into play and some other things. Do you think that our business is going to change into a subscription model completely, or a portion of our business changes more to a subscription through the dealership for, because you can do it with boats now, you can do it with, motorcycles, things of that nature. Do you think that dealers will supplement some of the sales that potentially might not be there with subscription?
I'm sorry. I think it's been tried. A number of things have tried it. Is it a possibility? I think it can definitely happen. When subscription comes into play, I think we gotta. I think depends on what kind of dealer you are too, and I think it'll probably work better with groups than it would
Yeah.
with like a single point. So the way I see a subscription, kind of how I seen it in the past, would be like if you have somebody who's like a highline dealer. So customers who have a bit more money, they're less worried about the cost of vehicles and more like, I want to drive something cool. Because when you're talking about like motorcycles and boats, that's a lot of I want to do something cool.
Yeah,
That's kind of where what you're getting at. Because you're talking more about wants than needs at that point.
Sure.
I think there is a room for it, I would say, if you did like a high line subscription model. So for example, if normally on the weekday on the weekends I take my kids to XYZ, so I like an SUV because I'm with my kids a lot on the weekends.
Yeah.
But on the weekdays, if I'm like in finance or something, I want to look cool when I go to my
Sure.
finance job. I want a Porsche. Like that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
I think there's room for that. As far as more like day to day, I think it'd be difficult just because I'm not saying it can't be done. I don't think it's on the short term, just because the monthly of that subscription would be quite expensive. And the insurance concerns, kind of going to Carvana, you almost have to start carrying kind of your own paper in some ways to like how do you really like I see a difficulty with insurance companies being willing to like, wait a minute. So Billy here is switching cars and crashed 3 of them. But, like where does it end? Like, because like depending on what car Billy drives, like your Suburban is not the same as your freaking Porsche or your Range Rover. So like, how do you give them a monthly that's not ridiculously to cover any car in that, I guess, menu? But if you're just saying to one single, so in other words, I literally come in and I go, I'm getting this Toyota Camry, and this is the subscription. So like a pseudo lease, but it's not a lease.
Yeah. Use as necessary. Like you can, I don't know. It's something
you see,
it's come up in conversation in a couple of different places, and I've just been asking some, I've been asking some different people what their thought was, and maybe trying.
I think in Highline, I think there is room for it in like the Highline enthusiasts. It'd be more difficult to just say one car, because if you just say one car, well, why don't you just get a lease at that point? So you almost have to have a menu of cars that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then there's, repairs and all. You can see how this could be a bit of a difficulty.
Absolutely.
So
pivoting back to AI, what is one everyday thing that you wish that AI could already automate for you in your personal life?
I've been messing around with this for a while and is doing it to an extent, but I would say scheduling and staging up email responses.
Have you used Fixer?
I have.
Yeah,
I've used a number of things. It's never quite like I've actually done some. I actually tuned my own AI to do that, which it does pretty well. But still needs to be modified a little bit. I would say I also what right now, like with ChatGPT, they have the agentic mode. So I don't know if you tried the agentic mode with ChatGPT. Some of what it does, if they take it to the next level where it can actually start booking everything for you and take care of stuff like that, that'd be huge. So in other words, like, hey, I have a vacation planned out. I scoped out where I want to go, blah, blah. Go ahead and book it for me. So, you see, like,
So one that that I just found out about, Perplexity
the search.
They just added another feature to it that isn't quite live yet, but if you subscribe to it or ask for it, they'll give it to you. But it will do just that. So I booked
interesting.
I booked a hotel room, and I said, hey, I need to book a hotel room. This is where I want to stay. This is the price range that I want. Tell me the best available option. So then it literally went through everything, pulled up the website, brought it over, and it said, all right, here's the best
Cool.
one. And I said, all right, go ahead and book it. I want a king size bed. It's going to be 2 adults, blah, blah, blah. Here's my card. Here's my, not my credit card, but here's my rewards log, whatever. And it literally brought me right to the payment page, done. So it's getting there.
There is it's getting there. Like ChatGPT agentic mode can do exactly stuff like that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that, then you're starting to cross into how much access do you want to give these? Because now you're giving like a third-party company access to certain level.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I do think kind of forward thinking. I think in business really should start thinking about this. I think more and more people will start using agentic AI to essentially interact with businesses on their behalf until it gets to a certain point.
Yeah.
And if you think that's not going to happen, you are sorely mistaken. So you definitely as businesses, not just automotive, you really should start tuning things to like how would that work? How would that interaction happen from the business side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already doing it on my side. Anything, anything that I want to buy or whatever, hey, I'm looking for a new TV. Give me, put on the role of me, and I want this TV. I want, these are the features that matter to me, and it's going to do all the legwork for me. It's going to look at reviews.
That's a big one. When I talk to SEO vendors, like SEO, SEM vendors, one of my first questions is, what are you guys doing to improve discoverability on AI search, so GPT, Perplexity, like those platforms, because the percentage of people leveraging those platforms to search for things is increasing exponentially, and if traditional SEO doesn't necessarily cover that. So yeah.
Well, I know that you are very busy and continuing to add innovation to the group, and this conversation has been awesome. I've learned a lot and have so many more things that I want to go try now. But if you had one parting word of advice, what do you advise everybody out there to do as far as innovation is concerned?
If you don't have one uncomfortable conversation a day, and I don't mean like a negatively uncomfortable, I mean like something that takes you outside of your comfort zone, you're not doing your job. So that would be my thing. Always walk into something innovative that takes you outside of your comfort zone. If you don't do that once a day and you don't have one of those conversations, I don't think you've accomplished or lived. To be honest, you haven't lived, because it's really amazing what's out there and what you can find if you actually start doing that. Like, get out of the 6-foot world and start going further out. That'd be my thing.
I love it. Yuriy, thank you so much for the time.
Kyle, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much.